Welcome to the last video in this Countertype series. I've covered all the other types, and today it's Type 7's turn, and we are answering that question of why do some Enneagram types just not fit the stereotype of their type? And to answer that question, well, it can be because of countertypes. And so that is what we are learning about today. And sevens, it's your turn. This is your video. I'm so sorry I left you guys for the last video in the series, but let's just say I saved the best for last. And you might be a little confused, wondering to yourself, well, what is a countertype? Why does the word countertype mean that I might not fit in with my actual type? And the reason is all 9 types have a countertype. And that's why I've done a whole series on this, because I have so many people come to me wondering why they align with, the cores of a certain type, but they just don't feel like they fit that stereotype of the type. And so they'll read about it or they'll watch videos, but sometimes you find yourself watching those going, well, I'm not completely fitting in with what, is being portrayed. And the reason is you more than likely are that type. It's just you don't fit in with all the behaviors of that type, and that is because of countertypes. And so that's what we're digging deep into today. Before I dive into the countertype of a Type 7, I want to introduce myself. I'm Hillary. I'm your certified Enneagram life coach, and I love teaching you guys the Enneagram in the simplest and easiest way possible. I run Enneagram and coaching. I just love teaching you guys the Enneagram. I love using the Enneagram as a tool to help you grow in your life, accept yourself, accept others in your life, and just to grow in compassion and grace for yourself and those in your life. So before I dive into what the Countertype 7 is, I want to teach you what countertypes actually are. So every type, all 9 types, have a countertype, and this is due to all 9 types having subtypes. And those subtypes are your instincts, which are the self-preservation instinct, the social instinct, and the sexual instinct, also known as a one-to-one instinct. And so if you've heard of the SO, the SP, the SX, that's what those are. Those are subtypes, aka instinctual variants. And so within those 3, you find the countertype, and every type has a different countertype. And so it's not just dependent on like all the socials are the countertype or all the self-preservations are the countertype. No, each one is different. And so that countertype, this one is the one that just doesn't always feel like it fits in. It looks a little different than the average behaviors of its type. Those outside behaviors are just going to look a little different. And actually, I'm the countertype 9, which happens to be a social 9. And so I present myself a little differently than you would think the typical 9 would. And that's okay. And so it just varies within the type. And so I want to go ahead and dive into the Countertype 7 and discuss what the Countertype 7 would look like. So what is the countertype of a 7? Well, it happens to be the social instinct. That is the Countertype 7. And so let's go ahead and go over the differences between a social 7 versus the self-preservation and SX 7, which both of those, while they're still a little different, they present as the typical 7 that you're going to read about and hear about and watch. Okay, so that social 7, this one is a little bit more about going without, doing things for others. They actually can resemble a 2. And so this one is going to go without in order to benefit a group or the people they care about. It's just more sacrificial than the other 2 subtypes. And so again, that's why I say it looks a little bit like a 2, is because for them, they're a little bit more sacrificial, sacrificing their own needs for others. But here's the difference. They are still aware of their own needs. They just happen to serve other people before serving themselves. And another difference is the 7, they do want to be admired and noticed for those sacrifices they are making. The social 7 will take on a lot of responsibility, but they can get a little lazy when certain tasks become too demanding. And so you are going to see the social 7 take on a lot of responsibility, but just keep in mind, if it gets really demanding, they're probably going to pull back a little and not, want to take on more responsibility. The social 7, they have a very positive outlook on life. And the 7 in general is positive, but you're going to just see it even more in the social 7. Okay, so you guys know the core weakness of the 7 is gluttony. Well, this is where it gets tricky, because in the social 7, they're definitely aware of that core weakness, but they don't want it to be what defines them. And so they're super aware of it, but they will go the extra mile to make sure that this isn't what defines them, and almost to the point of them thinking like they want to be anti gluttonous, if that's a word. That's a word. Yeah, that's a word. So for them, it's like, okay, I know this is my struggle. This is, this could be a weakness. So I want to be anti that. And that's what they're working towards. They're going to sacrifice that gluttony sometimes to be the better person, to become the better person. They want a world where there's no pain, there's no suffering. And a lot of us want that, right? But for the 7, you're going to see this in their everyday actions. They're going to be taking on causes and be taking on things that allow them to alleviate stuff like this and want a better world for everyone. They just want this ideal world. I did read that social 7s can almost be too pure sometimes. They tend to want to attain that purity through their health, through their diet, through any choices they're making on what they put in their body. They're very aware of them and wanting to be pure. They also strive to be pure in their mind and spirit. It's like that body, soul, and mind thing for the 7s. They're just really aware, hyper aware of this, and they're trying to attain, the pureness of life. And I would say the downside to this is it leads them to worry a lot about these types of things, right? And so while they're trying to attain it, some of it can be fear-based, some of it can be like, they're worried about it. And so they're like ultra, strict and trying to just hit all these levels of what they think is pure and anti-gluttonous and all of those things. And so if you are a 7, if you are a social 7 and you relate to this, just watch for that. Just make sure it's not leading to you always worrying about it or having anxiety about it. Bring it into balance. To me, I'm sitting here, thinking about it, going, okay, this all sounds really healthy and good, but just make sure the pendulum isn't just swinging so far to the right because you're trying not to go the other way, if that makes sense, right? We just want to be in balance. We want to be healthy and in balance. And so just make sure that that's what you're doing in those areas. And so that's all I have today about the social 7, that countertype social 7. I hope this helped you understand the social 7 better. And if you are a social 7, understand yourself better. If you know a social 7, all of a sudden you can understand them better and have more compassion and grace for them. And that's why I do this, right? Because I just want you guys to understand each other and to accept each other and to understand, like, we need everybody. Everybody needs to be on the team. Everybody is an important piece in this world. And so that's why I do this. And so that's a glimpse into that countertype 7. And I will say, when we're discussing instincts, we usually like to put them in order. You're going to hear people say, well, I'm a 7 wing 6 self-preservation, or 7 wing 8 social, or social self-preservation, right? You will hear people put instincts in order. And so to help you understand that a little better, it just boils down to, which one do you relate to the most? Which one do you do first? These are instincts, right? This is a self-preservation instinct. This is a social instinct. This is a sexual instinct. Those are your instincts. So just think about, if you're trying to decide which one comes first, which one do you most relate to? Which one do you use first? That's the order we would put them in. It doesn't mean that you don't use the other two. We definitely want you to have all 3. They're all survival instincts, right? They're all good instincts. And so we're just trying to figure out which order you put them in, because then we can understand you even better. And so that's my advice on trying to figure out which instinct or which subtype you are if you are a 7. And so I hope this helped you today. Again, and if you are, I'm just going to throw an example out there. Say you're like, yeah, I'm definitely that social, but I also relate to the self-preservation. And actually, if you don't know what the other 2 subtypes are, I will link a video right here, because I've already done a video on all 3 subtypes of the type 7. Go give that a watch if you want more information, or if you want to know which order to put them in. But that example is, if you're a 7 social, but then you're like, I really relate to that self-preservation, just go SO/SP. And that's how you would write your instincts down. And so if you're like, you have a 6 wing, you're going to write 7W6 SO/SP. That means you're type 7 with a 6 wing, with a social instinct first and a self-preservation instinct second. And that's why within the Enneagram, there's 9 types, but there's so many combinations that there's, so many different people. And that's one of the reasons why. So if you don't know your wing, I also have already done a wing video too. I'll link that right here. And Honestly, both of them are already linked in the description box down below. Go give those both a watch if you want to know your complete order and how you write what Enneagram type you are down. All right, that's all I have for today, guys. You guys know I never like to close these without letting you know if you've gotten to this point and you don't know your Enneagram type, or you don't know your wing, or you want more help, you want someone to come alongside of you and help you figure this out. Well, I have good news for you. I offer a typing session or monthly coaching, which is if you do know your type already and you're like, well, I really want to dig deeper into all those pieces you were talking about, Hillary. Well, you know, I do offer a 5-session package. And so go find all of that linked down below in the description box also. But that's all I have for today, guys. Until next time, bye guys.